Hello.
Hi, this is Beth from Around the Table Yarns, but who you can see on your screen is Ainur, the designer of the Petunia Pullover, who's joining us for our first sweater club of 2025, and we're starting the Petunia Pullover, and you're wearing yours.
I am wearing mine.
It's it's such a cute pattern. I really love it.
Thank you.
Can, can you talk a little bit about designing this pattern?
Sure. Um, so this sweater, um, the design I think was originally born like 4 or 5 years ago, when Pom Pom had the open call for the patchwork issue, if you remember.
Mhm.
It was like multicolors.
I do
So
remember the patchwork issue.
it was such a great issue. I was so inspired. I sent them probably 10 design ideas, and among them was this design, but I pitched it as a dress, which is probably why it didn't get picked up, because I guess nobody wants to knit a dress. It was sort of like a boho 60s style.
Oh, I bet it was so cute.
Yeah,
I would
as
knit that dress.
I am thinking about modifying it into a dress because I love those kind of dresses.
Hmm.
Um, but then once it didn't, I tend to like lose the momentum and inspiration, so I kind of filed it away. And then a couple of years ago, I designed a whole accessories collection for Pearl Soho.
And it's
Um,
beautiful. I love your
uh,
accessories collection.
oh, thank you. The Carousel collection. So yeah, it had short rows all over in every accessory except for mittens. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's when I saw how that could be that that this design could sort of feed into that collection,
Mhm.
and I pitched to Pearl Soho, and they were like, yes, let's do it. So yeah, it kind of bounced around and finally
Found a home.
found its home there. And this yarn that Pearl Soho company makes,
Oh, lately. Our
the
linen
linen
quilt.
blend. Yeah, linen quill was such a great yarn to work with. So yeah, I just want to thank you for inviting me to talk to your knitting club. And I wanted to share some of my thoughts. And of course, we can start with questions first, so we can jump in and talk about the structure, whatever.
Um, that's That sounds like a great plan. So just a little background about because I think we've exchanged a couple of emails, but the Sweater Club has been going since the pandemic.
Mhm.
We started with a sock club, and during the pandemic, we met every Monday and knitted socks. And we would just start at the beginning of a pair of socks, and we would make the first one, and then we would make the second one, and then we'd go on to the next sock. And there wasn't really a schedule, and there wasn't really a plan. We would pick the next sock as we finished the first one. But after doing that for a year, it seemed like we should have a plan. And so we started doing socks once a month and sweaters once a month. I think we did hats for a couple of years before we did sweaters. But over the last couple of years, we've been doing Sweater Club, and it gives people a way to, with support, work through a sweater pattern. And so this is actually the
That's wonderful.
third, yeah, it really has been a lot of fun. This is the beginning of our third year for Sweater Club. And the first year we did pullovers, and the second year we did cardigans, and we did them top down and in the round, and we did them in pieces and sewed them together for both of those. And this year we wanted to try something completely different. And so we wanted to try unusual construction and see what that meant for our Project Monday group. And I think it's going to be a really fun year. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So yours is the first sweater. The plan is for it to take 6 months, but I'm not sure if it will take 6 months to get through the whole sweater. I think it might be a little bit faster than that. So we'll see what happens. because you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah. I
So
love that you have that time frame, so everybody can have a chance to finish by the deadline.
yeah, by the end of it. So
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, so you said unusual construction, and I think a lot of knitters, when they think about sideways, especially sweaters, there's this fear of like, oh, how am I gonna do this? Like it's sort of hard to wrap your head around. But I will show you the sweater. Um, I made a paper prototype to show you the different parts of it.
Oh, wonderful.
And it will look very, very familiar. So this is the front and back, basically.
Mm-hmm.
This is the underarm part. And these are the sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have knitted, seam sweater, raglan sweater, these would be the pieces that you would have that you
Mm-hmm.
would then sew on. And if you're knitting in the round, then you would start with the yoke, and then you separate for the
Mm-hmm.
body, for the sleeves, etc., etc. So when you're knitting sideways, you're just approaching it from, so I have so we start with the center back,
Mm-hmm.
and then we knit this way. This is, yep, I numbered.
Okay.
Um, knit up to here.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's not going to be like this. It's going to be more of this, but I kind of made the uh, prototype more like a raglan. So
Mm-hmm.
you knit this part, and then these little parts, that's where you separate. You put the stitches on hold, and then you cast on for this underarm flap of the sleeve. That section is called right sleeve cast on setup, this little underarm.
Mm-hmm.
And then you join the top part to the yoke,
Mm-hmm.
and then you continue knitting, and then you get to here, you put these stitches on hold, and then you knit this part, and then join with the underarm, the sleeve, and you finish the sleeve,
And it's all done.
and it's all done.
That's gorgeous.
And then the front is basically the same thing that you did in the back. You have these, whoops, the yoke part of the sleeves. You take that. Oh, you pick up a body where you put the stitches on hold, and you knit the underarm part of the
Mm-hmm.
body, and then you join the yoke back to the sleeves. So there's a lot of this action going on where you're like putting stitches on hold, joining them. And most of the time you do that because you have these underarms to take care of.
Right.
Um,
Those little extra not part of the whole thing.
yeah, and then once you knit this underarm part, you join the yoke again to the sleeve, and then you just continue knitting the front. And then this part is the same thing as you did. And even in the pattern, it says work the same way as the right sleeve.
Okay.
And you finish with the second half of the back, and that's where you will join together. And all of your sweater parts will be completed. Um, all you need to do is just sew the sleeve underarm to the body underarm,
Mm-hmm.
and then pick up stitches around the neckband, hem, the sleeves,
The
and
cuffs.
work the rib. Yeah. So it may seem confusing when you just read the pattern without knitting it,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're knitting it, it will click, it will make sense. Just because it's a different way of knitting, if you're trying to, read the pattern before you start knitting it, it may make you go dizzy a little bit.
Well, it's a really nicely thought out pattern, and I love all the different sizes. We love when a pattern has a lot of sizes, and it's really nice when there's a small people version and a big people version. So we have a lot of people who like to knit for their younger relatives. And so it's nice to have like a kid's version of it. It is such a fun pattern. Did you, and I can see the one that you're wearing is in more subdued colors than the one that is featured on the Pearl Soho. So one of the things that we've talked about is the candy colors that Pearl Soho used are not for everybody,
Yeah.
but you can adapt this sweater really easily. And I don't think she's on our Zoom at the moment, but one of our knitters is doing two very close shades of purple.
Oh,
And
interesting.
some other people are looking at, I'm not, Martha, are you doing neutrals? I'm trying to remember if you're the person doing neutrals, but I've got somebody doing two neutrals. And so
Oh,
it's a way of creating like the interest and the vertical striping, but not having it be so in your face candy colored as
right,
the pink and white or the pink and gray or whatever.
right.
Martha,
Uh,
are you doing neutrals? You don't have sound. Okay. Here, you can unmute. I muted you. Oh, did you do it? You're still muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, all
Now we
right.
can hear you.
Yeah, no, I have the Remix Light
Hmm.
in black and dark brown.
Oh, that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got some people doing it for their grandchildren and they're doing pink and white.
No, doing it for me.
You're doing it for you. Lovely. Thank you.
Somebody asked, well, Jean asked it, is it reversible? Um, it is not because you have when you pick up the stitches for the neckband, you have this kind of a not very nice looking edge that will be hidden on the inside.
I think Jean might mean is the front and the back shaping of the neck the same?
Oh, so yeah, the front and back are the same. The neck is slightly wide. So I didn't shape the front any differently. It's all the same, and it's supposed to sit a little lower, so there shouldn't be an issue with the
So
neck, you know.
it's not right up at your neck. Um,
Yeah.
I've started mine. I'm gonna hold mine up. I'm not wearing mine because I'm making the fourth size of the children's version. And here's Maureen's crochet hook that I stole because I was going to demonstrate the crocheted cast on.
Oh, yes, that's such a great technique. I don't know if the pattern
It did.
calls
Well,
for
it,
that.
it
Oh,
called for a it called for
oh, provisional cast
a
on. Okay,
provisional
yeah.
cast on, so I was showing people how to do. I'm going to just
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm going to
crochet.
replace the spotlight for a second. So here's mine.
Ooh.
And I'm doing it in the orange and green. This is going to be a sample for our store.
Oh, beautiful. I love those
And
colors.
so here's what I love about this pattern. Okay. I started it, so I've got my provisional cast on here, and I went along and I got to the place where you put all of the stitches on a holder, and I'm using a
Yep.
barber cord to do
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
And then I cast on for my underarm and
Yep.
slid the stitches that
Sleeve.
I needed.
Mm-hmm.
The shaping of the neck on the back and the sleeve is exactly the same. It's the
Yes.
same set of short rows over and over
Yes.
again.
Yes. Yeah,
And
all
it's
throughout.
throughout the
Yep.
whole thing.
Yes.
So that part means that the rest of it is very adjustable.
Yes.
You want a narrower sleeve or a longer body,
Yes.
no problem in doing a few more repeats of the stripe. You have to do two repeats of the stripe. So if you want it to be a little bit wider, you have to
Yeah.
commit two more because you have to have color one and color two. Um, and if you want to make it longer or shorter, you just have to adjust the total number of sleeves. So you need to check your gauge to be able to do that. But
Yeah.
easy. Like I can
Yeah,
see why this would have been a fun dress. It would be such a cute dress for like a little girl to
yeah,
do a toddler dress. So we don't carry linen quill because only Pearl Soho can carry their yarn.
right.
So we chose Remix Light, which has a little bit of linen and has a little bit of silk in it, but it's also 100% recycled fiber, and it's very similar in its like in the way it handles. I have some linen quill at home, and so it's very similar in the way that it handles to the linen quill.
That's a really good point that I wanted to touch upon. That if you're substituting yarn, um, the sweater pattern is written specifically for a yarn that has a lot of drape. So linen quill is 50% drapey and 50% wool. It's 35 alpaca, 15% linen, which together makes about 50% of like low memory drapey yarn. So if you're looking for a replacement, something with about that much content of silk or alpaca or linen, that kind of stuff would help to have a similar gauge and feel.
Hmm.
Because even if you get the correct gauge with, say, 100% wool,
Hmm.
non-superwash, it's going to turn out much bigger because with the um, drapey yarn, all of that gauge that you achieve, the row gauge, when you wear it, it will pull down and sort of, you know,
Elongate.
yeah, elongate and fill and kind of repeat the shapes of your body because it has that much drape. And if it's all 100% non-superwash wool, it will just keep its shape and
Yeah,
it
it'll
will
be
turn
a lot
out.
stiffer. I think
Yeah, so that's
we do have somebody who's using 100% wool, but it is a superwash.
superwash might do better. You might even try light light fingering weight superwash that will also, like having a little bit of a looser gauge
Hmm.
with thinner yarn might give a similar
I know. I'm
feel.
super tempted. I don't know if you're familiar with Sweet Georgia yarns.
I've heard of
They
the yarn, yeah.
it's a yarn dyer out of Vancouver, Canada, and they have
Yeah,
really wonderful colors. We have their colors in their Tough Love sock, and
that might work.
they're
Yeah.
very subtle. There can be some very subtle changes between the different colors. Do you so in our videos, we typically show the techniques that
Mhm.
are used in the pattern. Are you set up to do that, or would you like me to do that?
Oh, you can go ahead and do that. I just wanted to, before you move on to the technique, I wanted to show a little color swatches I made. Just
Please do. That would be great. Yeah.
um so if you want to make just two colors, that's great. But the sweater is also great for stash busting if you have a lot of bits of yarn.
Oh.
So the way I like to my next sweater, I'd like to make a boho inspired one with like multiple colors throughout, but it kind of makes it hard to decide and not run out of colors, sequencing, et cetera, et cetera. So my favorite way to do random colors without overwhelming myself is using one color as the base
Hmm.
and then do random colors throughout. So for example, um,
Oh, fun.
this is where I use the black as the base
Hmm.
and then just, different colors of yellow, different kinds of red throughout, different kinds of blue, different kinds of greens. So I think I'm gonna try this. And you swap out the black to white, it kind of gives a little bit of a nautical
Hmm.
vibe. So this would be great for spring, for example.
Hmm.
And if you're into super bright colors, there's this one.
You
This
could
is neon.
take the background and make it neon. Yeah. Oh, that's really
Yeah,
fun.
and then use other colors. But again, it's the same thinking where I'm using different kinds of reds throughout, different kinds of blues, and then greens throughout. But it doesn't look too random, but it is random, and it works. And then if you like fall colors, this is my favorite color, the mustard yellow.
It's
So,
my favorite color. I love mustard
oh, is it?
yellow.
Um, so yeah, that's what I wanted to show. And before you move on to the technique, just a quick note about modification. I love that you said you can work fewer sections. You can definitely do that. I would just caution against like people were holding theirs up and like, oh, I got it and this is enough. Just remember that you're supposed to have a lot of um positive ease. And when you hold up to your body, don't go by just the neck area, because the neck area, when you pick up the neckband, will be gathered a bit more. So if it's getting too big, it's supposed to be that way, and you can gather it a bit more if you don't like how wide it has gotten. But even in the pattern itself, I do some decreases before the rib.
Got it.
Um, yeah, so that's
So
what
you
I
should look
wanted.
at, so then in other words, the
Yes,
I'm
look
going
at the body, the
I'm going to hold up mine.
bottom part.
I've got a sample right here to show. Let me just.
Yeah,
So
so look
my
at the bottom.
so you're wanting to make sure, so positive ease means that it is that many inches or whatever the measurement is, but that many inches bigger than your actual measurement. So for what's the ease in this? Is it like 8 or 10 inches for the adult sizes?
Oh, I know at least 6. Let me
At
see.
least 6. So in other words, if you measure 40 inches around,
Oh, 5 to 8. Five
five
to
to eight.
eight.
So you want to make sure that your body pieces are measured across at the bottom to be wider. So if you're making something and you want it to be 46 inches around, then the front or the back should be at least 23 inches wide at the
Correct.
bottom. The neck part doesn't matter because
Yes,
we
because
are A-line, most of us.
yeah, thank you. And the neck part, even if it's turning out much bigger, you can still gather it. Even if it turns out bigger than the pattern, you can still gather it and adjust it however you like. So don't go by the neck area, but the bottom
By the bottom.
body area.
That's
Yep, thank you,
great
Beth.
advice. That's very helpful.
And also I want to for some nitpicky people who are bothered that the front and the back don't have any neck shaping that's different, that the front is not going lower. You can incorporate decreases up to a certain point, work even, and then increases if you want to create lower fronts, if you like that. But you have to keep track of how many you decreased, how many you worked in the center, and how many you need to increase back up. So if you look at the pattern, you can count up how many times the stripes repeat and work the math into it. I
And
also
I can
saw
help with
somebody,
that, or we can even contact Einar. She can help us.
yeah, I have all those numbers on my spreadsheets, so I can
Oh,
let you know.
I love a woman with a spreadsheet.
Oh, that's how sweaters are graded across sizes. It's all spreadsheets. I also saw somebody did a tapered
Please.
sleeve. Yeah, so they put short rows over here, so they would like eliminate some of the rows
Oh,
at the cuff. Um, I like this way, but if you wanted to explore that, look through the Ravelry projects, and somebody put their notes on doing tapered sleeves.
so you could reverse, you could do short rows at both sides.
Yes, exactly. But over here, you would have to do it much less than here because you don't need that much tapering.
So maybe just taper in one color.
Oh yeah, yes.
Like
Or
do the
every
short row,
other.
like you've got dark and light, so do the short row shaping in the dark and leave the light ones,
Or maybe every other dark.
or every other dark. Yeah, could
Yeah.
give you just
Yeah.
enough. Because you could probably figure
Yeah.
out if you have your row gauge, you could figure out it's
Yes.
supposed to be this wide, and I want to make it this much less. How many rows is that? How many
Yeah.
pairs of rows is that? And then that would tell you how many you'd want to get rid of. Oh,
Yeah.
we could nerd out on this.
Yeah. And just last suggestion because I have this idea, so I want somebody to try it. Um, if you love color blocked sweaters, you can, make half half one color, sleeve one color, half of the front one color, etc., etc. But you would need to place markers every 6 rows, or it's some way of keeping track of the 6 row sections because that's how the pattern is set up.
Progressive, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great advice. I love that. Does anybody who's on the call have any questions? I know I've muted a couple of you, and I appreciate that you're letting us have a conversation, but please, if you have a question, either put it in the chat. Do we have anything else in the chat? We can
Remix.
order, we can,
Yes.
I see the question is, do we have any remix restock coming? We can actually drop ship directly to you. So Jean, give us a call at the shop tomorrow and we can drop ship you whatever color you want directly from Barocco. They have, I have a stock checker that I can check online.
What's the makeup of the remix, the
The remix
content?
light, oh, I have
I'm
naked ball.
curious.
Oh,
Okay.
anybody got their, Elfrida, have you got your,
Yes, can you hear
label?
me?
Yep.
Can you? Okay. 30% nylon, 27 cotton, 24 acrylic, 10 silk, and 9 linen.
It's 100% recycled fiber from the from fiber manufacturing.
30% nylon, 27% cotton, 24% acrylic, 10% silk, and 9% linen.
Oh, interesting. Thank you.
And the light comes in, they're 100-gram skeins and they are 400 yards. How many yards are they?
432.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
it is a very lightweight DK.
Is it DK? It sounds
It's
more like.
technically a DK.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
it's like a heavy fingering.
Oh, okay.
But it works up, it's working up beautifully. It's working up to 22 stitches to 4 inches. And because it's very textural, it sort of holds its shape even when you are, working on a bigger needle.
Mm.
Anybody else have a question?
This is Jean. I do have a question. So what I'm thinking about doing is a neutral for the main color, but ordering, what's the Pearl Soho yarn?
Linen
called?
quill.
Linen quill. You can get a set of linen quill that's like 20 mini skeins.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking of getting the 20 mini skeins in like the more muted beach and earth tones. And putting all the cool ones on one side and all the warm ones on the other, so I can wear it either side forward. And so I would really kind of have 2 looks. And then using either the almond or the remix light in either almond or vanilla or something.
So I'm gonna butter around for us.
Yeah, I'm to show you. Yep, I'm gonna reverse. I thought you meant like reverse inside out.
Right. No, that's not what I meant. I think Beth clarified. Beth knew my thinking was front and back. So
yeah, I just reversed.
I don't know. I just thought it would be a lot of fun to work with a lot of colors and see what happens.
I think that would be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I have seen those linen quill minis, and the full set was on sale at some point, and I was just like, stop me. I own a yarn short store. I don't need those. I don't need them. No, no more yarn. Okay.
The 40 color set is my favorite.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
it is a nice yarn. It really is. Pearl Soho has done a really great job of curating some wonderful fibers into their own house brands, and I'm not at all bitter that we can't sell them. More power to them. They've really invented a great product for people. Um, okay, I'm going to steal the spotlight. Ainur, will you stay on and
Yep.
comment and say if
Yes,
I'm doing
yes.
it wrong, please?
Oh, I don't think you would be doing anything.
Who knows? Who knows what I'll do? Okay, I'm going to set up. So I'm going to turn on my camera. Hello, camera. So we are looking at my project so far. And for Project Monday, we try and show how the techniques are done. I don't know. Can I get further away? I think the only way I can get further away is lifting up my camera a little bit. Okay. So you can see here, I've used mercerized cotton as my waste yarn. And I did it with a crocheted on, what's the word?
Cast on.
No, I did a crochet cast on with waste yarn for what's it called when we do the thing?
Provisional?
Provisional. Thank you. I'm like,
Provisional,
words. I don't
yeah.
remember my words. But here's something else that I just find is really beautiful about this pattern. I was reviewing my work. I've started this a couple of months ago. Because when I first contacted you, I started the pattern and then I didn't finish it and I kept going and then blah, blah, blah. So I put it down, picked it up, put it down, picked it up. I am 2 rows short here of what I did 4 repeats and not 5. So I've got 1, sorry. You're supposed to get to here. And then you repeat 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm supposed to have 5 for the side
Oh,
that I'm doing.
that's
But-
easy to fix.
But no biggie, because I can just add it to this side.
Yeah.
It's very forgiving. I want to just show you something else. The short rows are different depending on which color you're using. If you're using the same color throughout, then you're going to have to keep track in a different way. But if you're doing color A and color B, the short rows are at 4 stitches and then 7 stitches below. And then for color B, it's at 7 stitches and then 7 stitches below. So the taper is different for me, the orange versus the green. So I was doing this without any use of markers, which I usually tell people is a great idea. It's a great idea to use markers. And look what happens here. Anybody see my problem? So I repeated the same short row with the wrong color. And that put me off track. And then I went back on track. So for these 2 repeats, probably somewhere in the middle of the night when I was doing this, I did it wrong. And then I got back on track and I went on. I do not think it's so noticeable on the top of my sleeve that I'm going to rip back and fix that. But it's a danger to that that there's that possibility. So I just want to show you that I have color-coded markers in now.
Oh,
And I'm going to talk about those in a second when we get to the short row shaping. But
that is so clever.
I am a moron and I will reverse my pattern. So I use color-coded markers all the time. So I got orange and green markers to match my yarn. And when I'm on the orange one, just know you're going to go to the last marker of your color to do your short row. And then the next time you do the short row, you go to the first marker. So as you are always making the short rows at the end of the row, so you're going to go to this marker this marker first and turn, and then this marker and turn, and then you're done with the orange markers. So you can just slip them. If that's not the color you're working with, you just slip the markers like you normally would. And so then you go to the green, and the green you go to here first, and then you go back, and then you go to here second, and you go back. And that way I will not make that mistake again. And the short rows are exactly the same all the way around. So I can just leave those there, and they're, just what I need.
That's brilliant. I'm going to steal that idea.
I have a terrible habit because whenever you are doing a short row and it's at the end of a row, you always have to sort of be counting from the end.
Yeah.
Make sure, and it slows you down.
Yeah.
And so I've always found that when I'm working short rows, if I can put a marker in, especially with German short rows, which are my favorite kind, that you totally just nailed it by doing German short rows on this sweater, because
it's my favorite. It's my favorite too.
It's such a great way to do it. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. First, I'm going to just show how to do the crochet cast on, just really briefly for those people at home. And I said this in class this morning. I like to do a crocheted cast on a straight needle, just because it's easier to hold. I don't care what size the needle is. The provisional cast on does not need to be the same size as your working yarn. It does not need to be at the same gauge as your working yarn. So whatever straight needle you have to hand is fine for this. Grab a needle. And then you also need a crochet hook of a reasonable size. I prefer to use mercerized, so shiny, soft cotton for a waist yarn when I'm doing a crochet cast on, because the point of the crochet cast on is for it to pull easily out. Here is the yarn. I'm going to make a little slip knot to start and put it onto my crochet hook. And then I hold them parallel. I do not work with my tail, although the temptation is strong. So I try and hold my tail out of the way. And then I'm going to wrap my yarn around the knitting needle, catch it with my crochet hook, and pull it through the first loop. That's the first stitch. Wrap and pull through. That's the second stitch. And you just keep doing that for the 76 stitches or the 106 stitches or the 84 stitches or however many stitches for your cast on. You just keep doing that. And then when you're ready to work with your working yarn, you can. So what I like to do then is because the reason you like to use a crocheted cast on is because it will come out easily. So if I pulled on this, I would unravel all of these stitches. And that's the beauty of a crocheted cast on, is that it unravels. And when you've done it like this, you can just knit straight onto those stitches with your working yarn for your first row. But you can only pull it from the end, not the beginning strand. And so I pull the last loop out like that and cut it and make, like, I tie them so that I know which one is my end and which is my beginning. So I'm just going to show you that on my beginning. So here's my end, and here's my beginning. Words. There's my beginning with no tied on, and here's the tied on end. So I know when I'm ready to take out my provisional stitches that I'm going to pull this out and unravel along here. And when I do that, I'm going to come along behind with my needle, whatever needle I'm using. I may do the picking up first. So I may go and weave in and out and just pick up my stitches that are on the provisional before I do that. Like that. So you can just sort of weave the needle in and out, picking up the right leg of each stitch. Oh, that's very bright, isn't it? Sorry. Sometimes if I hold it. But we will get to that when we get to picking out the provisional thing. So we don't have to worry about that right now. Right now, what you want is to have your provisional cast on just sitting in place and holding your stitches. Okay. The second thing is you work the pattern as written until you get to the end of the first section. And you have us, I know you have us going onto a separate needle, but I found it was just as easy to use a barber cord. So I
Right.
slid all of the stitches onto the barber cord to hold it, and then continued to use my same needle to cast on a second piece. And you work this little, this is the underarm part, and then you join the top part of the stitches, sorry, together
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
So that was easy to do with a barber cord. So you can use a separate needle, a second needle, you can use a barber cord, you can, there's different choices for that. All right,
Yeah, you can also use scrap yarn with,
scrap,
right.
yeah. You could use the same kind of, if you're using a mercerized cotton like this, you can use that
Yeah.
as well. All right, so I am now at the second of my short rows. So the other technique I wanted to show tonight on the video so that people have it later is the short row technique of the German short row, because it is just as easy as it can be. And also one of my favorite parts is you do not have to continually cut and join your yarn at the bottom. Now, if you're doing lots of colors, you will be joining and cutting at the bottom, but there will be a picked up ribbing at the bottom that will hide your ends, that you can sort of hide your ends in. So it's not a big deal. But if you are continuing with one color, like if you've got a base color that is going to continue along each time, then you want to be able to carry your ends up the bottom. And you can sort of see there's a little green, there's a little orange, there's a little green. So I've been carrying my ends along the bottom of my work. And that's a really simple thing to do. It's kind of like when you change colors in an intarsia row. You just want to make sure when you make your next stitch that your working yarn loops around the other color. So carrying this yarn along the bottom, and Ainur talks about it in the pattern that she wants you to do this, but all you have to do is just make sure that your working yarn starts on one side and loops around so that when you make your stitch, you've caught up the other color with your working yarn. So that looks like this when I'm actually knitting it. And I am on the second German short row of I'm on my sleeve. I keep thinking this is the body because it's a very wide sleeve. But when we look at yours is very wide. And
Yeah.
it's meant to be drapey and sort of balloony.
Yeah.
I did not do the tiniest size, so it's going to take me a second. So, ask questions if you've got any right now.
If you do not like balloony sleeves, could you skip a pattern repeat when you
Yes.
do it?
Yes.
Or does it make your yoke too tight?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think one pattern repeat minus one pattern repeat will probably be okay.
Yeah, I think one repeat or
Yes.
two repeats are not gonna, one repeat here in one sleeve, one repeat in the other. Yeah, it shouldn't make a big difference. You can also taper it to the bottom by using short rows.
Oh, yes, right.
I'm not sure if you heard that, Elfrida, but
I
she was
did.
talking about doing short rows on both ends of the sleeves to make it a
Yeah.
little bit more
Yeah,
shaped.
I heard that. Okay.
I mean, I think that you could do a whole series of sweaters with different shaped sleeves.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I was thinking this would be so cute with short, like little flutter sleeves too.
Yes,
Oh,
I actually pitched that to Pearl Soho, making flutter sleeve short
oh,
for
yeah, right.
spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then it became complicated because we
Yeah, but that's great for the springtime or summer.
Mm-hmm.
two
Okay.
different sleeves would have
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to steal the
Yes, go ahead.
spotlight back. All right, so here I am. I'm coming up to the marker section. So I just want to clarify, in my size, for color A, the short rows happen 4 stitches from the end and 7 stitches before that. So 4 stitches from the end and 11 stitches in. And the other one happens 7 stitches from the end and 7 stitches away from that. So 14 stitches in. And so I just placed my markers exactly where those short rows are supposed to turn. So here I am approaching the section of markers. And you're just going to slip the markers out of your way if they're the wrong color. So green, you're the wrong color. Keep going. And it's my second time, and you can tell just by looking down at your work, this is my second time doing the short row because each of these sections are only 3 ridges long, 6 rows total. So to do a German short row, you work up to the marker and stop. Turn your work. Just like normal. Slip the first stitch, the one that the working yarn is attached to, slip that stitch purlwise to the right hand needle. Because you are knitting, that yarn is already at the front of the work where it's supposed to be. And then just lift it up. So you can do this whether you knit like I do, English style or continental, but you just lift up the working yarn. It elongates, and I'm just going to point at it, it elongates the legs of the stitch below the one that's on the needle. And then you put your needle into the next stitch and just knit it. So I always think that this makes like a little hug at the top of the needle, but it makes a stitch that has 2 legs down the back and down the front of the stitch and this little hug at the top. And then you just continue back to the other side. So I'm going to go back. Now, if I were doing my decreases, I might have identified some rows that I wanted to do. If I was doing tapering, I might have identified some rows that I was going to do short rows on the far side, but I am not doing that. I am doing this pattern as written. So I'm going to go all the way back to the other side. And then the last thing I want to show tonight is how you resolve those short row stitches. You just knit them like a knit 2 together. But I want to show you that. So we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to go back to having Ainur in the spotlight. Hello.
Hi, I don't know what
I know, I'm going to ask you a question. So,
okay.
So you thought about doing this as a dress originally.
Yes.
And if you wanted to do short sleeves, you would just decrease the number of stitches you cast on.
Correct.
Correct. Have you tried it with short sleeves?
You know, I know it will work. You don't even have to worry about it. Just, you know, if you look where your underarm is, maybe a couple stitches, couple inches below, and then think about what kind of a short sleeve you want. And, you know, like multiply by the stitch gauge. So I forgot what the stitch gauge is here.
Is it 22 to 4?
Where's my gauge? Oh yeah, 22. So yeah,
so if you want a couple of inches.
Yeah, so 9-10 stitches. So you would cast on for sleeve about 9-10 stitches. And then you just continue as written, except your stitch counts for the sleeve will be much less. And then when you pick up stitches for the rib, you probably won't make as many decreases because your upper arms are thicker than your wrist area. So you either wouldn't make any decreases because rib by itself will hug your upper arms, or maybe decrease every, I don't know, 6-8 stitches or 10 to 12. It depends. You'll have to look at the
percentage
number of stitches. Yeah, number of stitches you get.
And I can help with that at the store if people are wanting to make that kind of an alteration.
Yeah, it's a very easy alteration to make.
It is. So when I finished the second short row of the orange, I'm done with the orange for now. And you can see that that's really, it's pretty clear because there's 3 ridges, 1, 2, 3 ridges of orange, and 3 ridges is all you want. So now I'm going to switch colors. And again, switching colors, you just want to carry this up. I don't really need to catch the orange. Oh, sorry, I'm right off the camera. I'm just going to carry up my green yarn. It was held in place at my last one. I don't really need to tuck it underneath the orange because I'm not using the orange now. But when I use the green again, I'll carry the orange up then. So I'm just switching colors, and then I'm going to work over to these. I'm going to work a whole row all the way to the end. So the first part of each of these stripe repeats is a full row there and back again. And in that first one where the double stitches are, and you'll be able to see them because your markers are right there, you're going to work the double stitches as a knit 2 together, essentially. Ainur, do you have any more sweaters planned?
Always.
What do you like? What else do you like to design? I have to tell I'm using the wrong color. I have to tell everybody to go and check out your carousel collection on Pearl Soho because I just think it is so adorable. It is the cutest set of mittens and hats and scarves. It's very, it reminds me of things from like the 40s or 50s.
Oh, thank you. It was actually inspired by circus theme. But as you can tell, short rows is something I use a lot in my designs between these 2 designs, but also in general, that's something that probably 80% of my designs have. Also, lately, I've been designing a lot of stuff sideways, socks sideways, hats sideways.
Ooh.
Yes. Oh, I forgot. Oh, hold on. Where is it? I have it right here.
While you're looking, Jean had a question about the difference in yardage. Is the difference in yardage between A and B because you use the cuffs with A?
Yes, correct. If you don't count the cuffs, they're the same. So these are my sideways socks.
Those are adorable.
This pattern is called Lateralis. It was in Pom Pom magazine. Later on, I released it myself, and I graded it in multiple yarns. So it has fingering weight. It has
Wait,
DK.
hold it up slower because it's a little blurry on my machine.
Oh, okay. So there's the
Hold still.
where is it? Hold on. There's fingering weight. Then there's sport weight.
Oh, wow.
Then there's DK weight. And then worsted weight.
Those are great.
So you buy one pattern and then you will definitely have some yarn to be able to work with.
We will definitely we may have to do that for sock club. Okay, I'm coming up on my first row of green. So again, in the first row, you do not stop and turn around at any of the markers. But as you complete the first row, you will come to the double stitches that you made before. And Ainur talks about resolving the double stitches as you work them. So this is what my double stitch looks like. It looks like a stitch with 2 legs. It looks like it's twisted at the top, but it has 2 legs at the front and the back. So you put your right needle into that stitch and knit it as though you were doing a knit 2 together and continue on. And as you can see in each of the places where I've done that, here and here, it's not hugely noticeable in the fabric. it looks really smooth in the fabric, and it's something that's really cool about the German short row, especially in garter stitch fabric. So I'm just going to do it one more time, and then I'm done with demonstrations. So there's my second one, and I'm just going to, again, work both legs. So I'm going knitwise into the stitch, just like a normal knit two together, working the two together, slipping the marker, and then I'm going to finish that row. So I will say that the light bulb markers are a little annoying because they tend to get turned that way and then they don't want to slide onto the needle. So you could do this with circular markers. You just need to put them in place when you get to those spots in the project. I was doing it after the fact, so having a slip-in marker that opens and closes was really, really easy. But I am really enjoying making this. Replace your spotlight again. So it's just so much fun. Is there anything else that you have to suggest about the pattern that people should know getting into it?
I think I addressed all the
All the
things yeah,
Checked your
unless
notes?
yeah, I had my notes.
I loved all your swatches. That was really great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, if anybody has any other questions.
I'm gonna come back. We're right at time too. So we did a good job. We did it in an hour. We're delighted you were with us today. This is such a fun pattern and we're really going to enjoy putting it together. Somebody asked me what the homework was, so I'm going to say that your homework, wait, I want to remove this. Remove. Can I replace? Can I remove? Oh, I remove spotlight. There we go. We'll just talk like normal people now. The homework is to get to the end. I really think if you can get to the end of the first sleeve by next month, but if you can't get to the end of the first sleeve by next month, that's okay. But at the end of the first sleeve, we'll demonstrate the joining of the next thing. Some people may struggle with this part where we're adding on. So if you get to a part where you have to stop, just stop and we will address it in their next meeting. The next meeting is February. Oh, silly me. The whole point of my life is to remember to look at things before I talk. So the February Sweater Club is February 17th. So we'll be back again on Monday, February 17th at 6 o'clock, and we'll be doing, we'll see if people need to help with the joining, but it's really the same thing, the same skills for doing the sleeve, getting the sleeve started as there was for getting the body started. So really the next thing that's different is going to be finishing the sleeve, doing the work to finish the sleeve. So that's what I'm hoping people can get to, but if you don't get that far, that's okay. Ainur, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
It's
Have
been
a wonderful
really
evening.
wonderful. It's been just great. I hope everybody has enjoyed this, and it will be posted on our website, aroundthetablyarns.com, under recorded classes or under Project Monday. It'll eventually get to recorded classes. And Maureen, thank you. I still have this.
Hey, no problem. Thanks, Ainur. This was really great. I loved all your samples. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a great evening, everybody. Bye-bye. I know I really appreciated. Oh, she went. There we go. Good night.